Very good. Welcome back to the program. Okay, so today being the 11th day of June 2025 is the viewpoint, and this is how we do it. Today's topic is the viewpoint, and the point is, my guests are going to fill the dots. And the point is, we all know what's happening across the country for the last 2-3 days, with the main discussion today being the final revelation by the government chief pathologist who carried the postmortem yesterday on the late Albert Ojwang, who now we all know the cause of death as per the results which were given by the pathologists who were there at the funeral home, the Nairobi funeral home, where the postmortem was done. And today I just want to take a look holistically what is happening and how we should get it right. All right, that is one of them. Number two, we also take a look at finally we have the IBC in place. Okay, we have the IBC in place. The president appointed the team. Finally, we have a full house, and so we are looking at what's going to be happening in the future. We have got so many constituencies unrepresented for far too long. That is one of them. I have got Professor Fred Gola, who is an economist and a convener of the J25 movement. Professor Gola was there at the mortuary yesterday. He followed this proceeding, whatever happened at that place. He was there. He actually addressed the media. Prof, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
It must have been a very busy 2-3 days for you, right?
Absolutely, especially from the fact that I wish I didn't know any story about Ojwang, because that's what makes it painful.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to know how this shocks people, the normality of the day, you begin the day when things are just normal. Maybe you know we are going to have lunch, then we shall take a walk. Then something just happens that changes the whole thing. Yeah. Imagine Ojwang was picked having lunch with his wife. The father was there, and the father handed him over very lawfully, expecting everything else that will work normal. In fact, the old man traveled coming to check here. But for me, let me just say the following, that from, without giving the long story, that Ojwang was arrested lawfully. Maybe Wakil is here, but Ojwang was arrested lawfully because the DCIs came from Nairobi, went to the nearby police station called Mawegu, took the OCS and went with the OCS to arrest him using a motorcycle. So that was lawful. He was handed over. The family was law-abiding. In spite of everything else that's happening, they handed over their son, knowing they'll see him again. So then what started becoming unlawful is when he arrived at the Mawegu police station, because that's when there's no OB checked in. And why do you take him away from Mawegu, bring him to Nairobi? So everything went wrong after that. But I see what was the contention when we were at the mortuary. First of all, the doctors, I think they were actually under a lot of pressure, didn't want to do the postmortem on time, and they were saying to say it's not urgent. Let me tell Kenyans that a postmortem is something very urgent, especially to the family of the deceased. It's always urgent. Let someone tell you that we still have time. The faster, the better. So they came with very fake reasons, and I told them they were invalid reasons. The first thing, talk about natural light, that we need natural light to do a postmortem. No, you don't need it. Natural light, they are saying, is better than artificial light. And anybody who has some knowledge in lighting knows that artificial light, you can adjust it to the way you want. But natural light is the way God has given it. When the sun is less intensive, you cannot adjust the intensity of the sunlight. You can't adjust the color of the sunlight. But artificial light, you can actually make it see what you want. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned,
let me just introduce the rest.
Okay.
We'll get into it.
Okay, sure.
You before it started the show, you said that Sosion is going to be
the anchor.
Elijah Ireri is here. Elijah Jagi Ireri, who is a lawyer and a governance expert. Swakili, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Yes, thank you.
Karibu sana. And finally, Wilson Sosion, who is a former nominated member of parliament and NAT Secretary General. You'll also give us a bit of some your insights on the education in as far as the finance bill is concerned. Education is going to suffer immensely, and even the Teacher Service Commission and everything that we need to understand. But let's come back. You were saying something.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute to that.
So I'm saying that what was very unfortunate was that after the incidents took place,
Yes.
first of all, misreporting, misinformation, and then secondly, trying to manage the family not to really see the truth. But I'm happy that I want to thank the doctors who performed the autopsy. The results they got could not be better than that, because what we suspected was there. And I could say that prima facie, the lawyer is here. On the face value, if you looked at Ojwang, you could see he was killed. Those, even when they were now doing all the surgeries and the cutting of the body, they were just confirming and everything confirmed. And it's amazing that 5 doctors, experts, forensic pathologists, concurred and consulted and concurred that this is a death that is externally put. And I want to tell Kenyans that don't buy these stories that always come. Immediately you are killed, people say you self-murdered, self-abducted. Yeah. They always accuse you. When Uko died, he committed suicide. You saw Father Kaiser, he killed himself. This is a narrative we've seen since independence, and don't buy it. So what I leave Kenyans by saying, as an expert in investigations, we believe in A, B, C. Yeah. A, assume nothing. So don't assume anything. B, believe nothing. When they tell you you kill yourself, hit yourself in the wall, don't believe it until you get the evidence. Lastly, check everything. Ata chini ya kitanda, look everywhere until you have every information you have. And the doctors did that, and that's why it is concurred that he was assaulted.
Now that you have the Star newspaper, what's on the front page of the Star newspaper? Let's do it together. On the front page, you can just raise it up.
Yeah,
on the front page of the Star newspaper, what's on the front page? Read it for us.
They're saying Ojwang strangled as Raila and MPs demand quick probe.
Okay. Wakili, what do you make of that headline?
First, I'll send my heartfelt condolences to the family of Ojwang. It didn't a sad time in our country that somebody was extremely healthy, a young man who was extremely healthy, having lunch at his home. A few hours later, he's normal and in the hands of the police. I really am distraught that the protectors of Kenyans, because that's their right to protect the life of the citizens, they're the ones who are being accused of enabling such atrocities on innocent Kenyans. It's a bit unfortunate. Now, this is a straightforward case of, in my view, murder, and the people who have done it should be brought to book. I don't think there's anything political about it, but what we need to call is for speedy investigation. I think by now people should have been arrested.
Okay.
Yes.
We are going to take a look at the law of defamation.
Yes.
All right? The law of defamation.
Yes.
Where it's also tied to the Cybercrime Act, the Penal Code.
Yes.
And basically, if I were to defame you, Mwalimu Sosion, the procedure, I mean, we also, what happened again, even over the weekend, politicians insult each other in broad daylight.
Correct.
And nothing happens. But Sosion, you are here. You can also speak something to this. I mean, good morning.
You know, the entire country is disturbed. There are things we cannot do, but we cannot cross the red line and take away human life. Let us abuse ourselves politically. Let us do anything. Let the police arrest citizens. But to take out somebody's life is a no. That is not permissible. It is not admissible. It is inconceivable. It is disturbing. It is not what we stand for. So I think let's not mix up issues here about what was a complaint, who was complaining. Let us deal with who took out the life of this young man, because that was not necessary and called for. And many of us have been arraigned in the police stations for different reasons, to record statements. I've recorded, I don't know, 3 or 4 times at the DCI. I've been at the Central Police Station and the rest. But I think to assault a suspect or a citizen to the point of death is a serious crime, particularly when it is done by the law enforcers. A citizen who was not a threat to the police themselves, a citizen who did not refuse arrest, a citizen who cooperated, and then you tell us in a few hours somebody is dead. I think there is something wrong with our police system. And I want to believe the litany of sabotage cases that we've witnessed over time is something that must be looked into. When Mutiambai walked out of Bomas and faked to be sick and faded out of the police service, that should have raised a lot of questions about before Kenyans, because a whole Inspector General of Police cannot preside over something that was near genocide for the country. I saw the police at Bomas freezing and failing to take action. And to me, that was a near recipe of throwing the country into anarchy. I watched in Parliament as we didn't see any single uniformed police officer present to protect Parliament. And we saw Koome walk out of the Vigilance House also unceremoniously. And we have seen killings by the police in different parts of the country in circumstances that could be avoided. Because you don't need to shoot the citizen, you don't need to kill. This one, I think, is the one that broke the camel's back. And we don't need to go around and create stories of conversation of who did what and how. It was done by a police officer within the presence of the police, whether inside the police car, whether at the central police station.
The fact remains that it was done
by a police officer. And we've seen, in terms of proper investigation and procedures, all the officers who are on duty at Central Police Station who have been interdicted. And an interdiction is the right step to allow for investigation. It indeed is the right step to allow for investigation. But Kenyans are not going to be fed on only interdiction. By now, we should have particularly those who handle the suspect to be to be arraigned in court.
Okay, allow me to jump into this, Mwesh. This probably must be an order from somewhere. The same way the order was given to track down the suspect, arrest, and the first point of handing over was at Mawego Police Station, which was a right one.
Let's not mix up issues.
Not mixing. Just a point of clarification.
On the point of
allow me to ask this as well. Allow me to ask this as well. The point of clarification: who gave the orders?
The orders of arresting are different from murder.
Did they act on someone's order for that person to be assaulted?
I don't think there is a sane police officer who can be ordered to murder in the country. Any police officer who is trained and is on duty is supposed to act within the law as a person and take personal responsibility.
So at what point did they, even if they did not get the orders from somewhere, at what point did they... We are just trying to...
Let me clarify so that we don't mix issues.
We are also just trying to make sense...
Let me clarify so that we don't mix issues.
We are just trying to make sense of, just thinking out loudly. At what point did even the people who tortured him to death think of doing it?
Now, let me...
Even the idea itself.
I'm not a forensic expert myself, neither am I an investigator, but at least let us separate issues. Let us separate the complaint and the complainant. Let us separate also the order to arrest. If you are ordered to be arrested and you are picked from CIA, you should be safe at least.
Actually, we are not even talking about the arrest, the process of being arrested.
Now,
the father abided by the law, handed in over to the
number one.
Yes.
For me, number one. Why assault a suspect who is under your custody?
Now that is what we're talking about.
Why kill?
The idea.
And I think that is where we all our mind should concentrate and focus on primarily.
Okay.
Article 51.
One that is put aside. Number two. The nature of the complaint. Was it worth taking a suspect all the way from wherever in the country? Because that is a civil matter. A civil matter, you don't need to bring a person all the way to the DCI. And that was a matter that could have been dealt differently. And I think that is where the police went overboard and used extra police force on a matter that could have been dealt with different. Because the young man could have been taken to record a statement at the nearest police station.
At the police station where he was first
a charge sheet prepared.
Yes.
Yes, and is produced in any court. He never needed to be brought all the way to Nairobi unless there are special reasons for that. But of course, all the same, he was brought to Nairobi.
Fine.
But why not keep him safe?
Allow for the second.
So that for me, the focus is why kill?
Why kill?
Let us not mix up issues.
51 of the Constitution, 51 of the Constitution provides for the right of a person detained by the police. One, to be informed in his language, the reason why he's being arrested, and then to be produced, to have access to his attorney or somebody who can help him with the circumstances, and then to be produced to court within a reasonable time. But in this case, they have specified within 24 hours. That's what should have followed. But within that period, doesn't root his dignity, his privacy, his right to life. And that's where the problem is. And they are aware of this. So once you arrest him, that's the procedure. Still has his dignity, his right, and then you produce him to court. Why go then the extra mile? The era of extracting confessions through force, harassing suspects, that's gone. We have a new constitution. And they know that. They need to move from that. And it's really unfortunate that we have a very robust legal framework in our constitution. And some elements, I would say some elements in the police force, don't see it fit to follow the law.
Okay.
And that's where action needs to be concentrated on.
But then, Wakili, you've correctly put it, but are we burying ourselves or our heads in the sand that the Constitution is there and the police officers are all trained and they know these rights?
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
But why ignore them?
I think there's a sense of impunity which is creeping back in the country, disregard of the law, the Constitution, and the rest. And I think that's where now maybe we go to the political will. Is there a political will to enforce the law? And that's where we are coming in. And that's where maybe we are coming in. Where is there impunity creeping in? Because why even now? And why even now? And I've even can bring in the issue of the late Charles Well, who was gunned down within 24 hours. So many people had been arrested. They moved very swiftly and arrested. But here, the officers were in the car, even if it's one or two, they are less than 10 with the suspects. The person was in lawful custody. He was taken to Central Police. So where do you want to look for? You're not looking for somebody in Kepera, Madare, with a motorbike, wherever, like in where's case. Yeah.
It's again, you guide us here.
Yes.
This was, because we've not seen the tweet itself.
Yes.
Okay, the complainant, we've not seen the nature of the complaint.
Yes.
But even if it was done online,
yes,
we can assume it's happened somewhere in the air.
Yes.
This person ought to have been produced to the nearest police station.
No, right? I think in terms of the arranged offense, the tweet, the cybercrime, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act of 2018, Section 22, when your rights have been infringed that way, you're just supposed to make a complaint to the nearest office, even if it's the DCI office, and then they call the suspects, interrogate him, and charge him in court if it's necessary. And the fine is quite hefty. Actually, it's almost 5 million. 5 million for that, if it's proved. And it's a simple process. It's not something you need even to detain somebody. Yeah. Just need the tweet and investigate the gadget. Yes.
I want to come back here. Prof.
Yes.
The kind of process that happened, we've all seen and heard, even from the narration from the parent and all that, the way it was handed over to the police officers. They came, they introduced themselves, procedurally, the way it's supposed to be done.
Yes.
The gentleman left his food there.
Yes.
The wife and the mother and the child. And now here that comes. So the question is there going to be some sort of trust between the civilian or mwananchi and the police officer on a simple case of defamation? Maybe ni askari, tumekuchukua, this is the case. If this is the case, so what if you are caught, robbery with violence? The extreme.
So let me tell you the following, that I disagree in very fundamental way with my brother Sosion by saying, let us separate the issues. You can't, because investigation cannot be done by saying that is there, that is there. The suspect starts from the complainant. Because if that complaint was not raised, that guy was not going to be arrested. And I want to tell my brother that I have a lot of information that you can't separate issues by saying this is that one, separate this one from this one. There is something called, wakili, command responsibility.
Yes.
Who gave the command?
Yeah.
Victor. Have you had people being charged with genocide? Are they the actual people who took the gun and shot the women and children?
No.
So we can't sit here to listen to things which we can't take. This is why the Gen Z went to the street and said, we don't want this crap of managing people. These people can manage you like this guy, the gentleman, Ojwang's father was being managed. Someone wants to kill your son and comes and says, I've been sent by my boss. Who is your boss? That's what they told the old man. So let me tell this clearly. False information publication, actually, it's not supposed to apply to social media. Social media, why are we calling mainstream media and social media? That's where people are socializing. And in fact, there's not been any single prosecution on these things we are talking about. And let's go to fundamental question here. The problem we are talking about, because I'm not here to discuss about symptoms of issues. The main problem we have in Kenya is that economy is not performing, Victor. Let's not go to side issues. When you can't perform, you bring a security risk, even as a husband. If children can't get their food, your wife can't be satisfied in any way she wants to. She will confront you. And if you can't perform, you start banging tables and beating them. So any man or any woman or any leader, wherever they are, when they can't perform, they become dangerous. Just like a dog at home. When a dog cannot fight with a thief, the dog turns back and bites the owner. So the truth of the matter is that the president overpromised Kenyans. After overpromising Kenyans, he has delivered nothing. And then what's happening? People are now pointing out and saying it, then they are threat. Social media, you're being arrested. The government of Kenya is so backward in their thinking, and the young people are so intelligent. Really? No, sorry to be, I'm giving facts here. When you cannot think at the level of the young people, they can expose you in 1 minute. For example, as we stand here, we have evidence as our young people that Langat and Ojwang, their phone was in the same location at the same time, isn't it? So what I'm trying to say is, using technology, because we have AI, we have tools that can be able to address this matter. So I'm talking about...
is signaling me that his cup is empty.
So, yes, fundamentally what I'm trying to say...
Just a minute. So is your cup full or you need some tea?
It's completely empty.
Okay, then we fill his cup?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that off air, which means we take a break.
mind of yourself. Huu ni mtoto wako hapa and she needs his help. Na kazi yako ni kurushia watu midomo without doing anything.
What you want, mate?
See you, and to know how you're doing.
Don't think that I am a moron or an imbecile. In short, I'm not schizophrenic.
Sasa unaongea vitu gani? Hata sielewi unasema nini.
Utasimama hapo mpaka saa ngapi?
Jen, kindly, I would like to have breakfast.
Hii kichwa yangu imejaa mambo mengi sana. Nataka unipe nafasi nitulie. Sawa?
Kenya's future is taking shape. Introducing the 2025-2026 National Budget. A budget built on priorities and focused on what matters most. Empowering agriculture for food security and prosperity. Supercharging digital infrastructure for innovation and opportunity. Building affordable homes, creating jobs and transforming lives. And ensuring quality healthcare for all. So, how much will it all cost? Well, a proposed budget of 4.2 trillion is on the table. Get the full picture, understand the numbers, and see the impact. The 2025-2026 budget on KBC Channel 1.
They say the earth without art would just be, get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Okay, so let's, on the front page, very quickly, on the front page of the Daily Nation, police cover-up, that is what is here. We've taken a look at the front page of the Star newspaper, police cover-up, that is what is there. It's more or less the same thing. And it says that authorities had attempted to blame Albert Ojwang for injuries that caused his death in their custody. But while his tormentors have succeeded in silencing the vocal teacher forever, they could not hide the truth about the cause of his sudden death. Brutal torture, with a post-mortem examination finding that he was murdered. His killers must now be brought to book. I think that's what the three gentlemen are saying here. Very quickly on the front page of the Standard newspaper, again, tortured, strangled. That is what's on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And if you can see the layout of the page, it's in dark. We can all relate, all right? With the gentleman on the front page, perhaps this is not what Albert envisaged in his entire life, to appear on a front page of a newspaper. But that is life. And you can take a look at that and on the front page. But let's come back to the real issues here. We are talking about the issue to do with the trust between the civilian and the law enforcement officer. We are a new dispensation of the Constitution where the police service was changed from the police force to a police service. And we all know that even in their curriculum, we've had discussions here with police officers and instructors and all that. They say the curriculum and the syllabus in the police training colleges changed to a police service because we are in an advanced society right now. But why is it that much as the society is moving and evolving with the new constitution, it is so hard for the police institution to move with Wanjiku and abide by the law? William.
Yeah, I think that's a critical question, and all these litany of events that we have watched, away from this one over Ojwang, is a relapse of the police service back to the police force. That is brutal. And it's
Did it even ever change?
And
did it ever change?
Well, there are a lot of structural changes, the establishment of the Police Service Commission, IPOA, and other things. So, definitely, there have been policy, legal, and structural changes. But I think the biggest problem with the police service is the leadership. The leadership of the police service must change. It must change. And set the tone and set the tone for the Senate. You know, when the president gave it the accounting powers, that should have been the beginning point of them being very professional and transiting to be a full police service. When you look at some of these actions, either they are very deliberate to sabotage, because it should not happen even in the first place in the current dispensation. The claim that Kenyans have put, because the police service is supposed to aid the public in ensuring that there is law and order in the society. So the engagement, the social engagement, social bond, the chemistry between the people and the police should be one of the best in the current dispensation. It cannot be that in 2025, it is like we are back again to the dark times where the police service has got a negative image that indicates them very, very, very badly. And to me, the backstops are the leadership of the police service, because all institutions are supposed to sanitize themselves, repackage themselves. You can't expect an outsider. You won't even expect the president. You won't expect anyone else to come and package you. There is a police, there is a curriculum in place. And like when you talked of, there might have been some orders. I don't think anybody can order a police officer to engage in lawlessness, because at the end of the day, you take personal responsibility. So this is quite disturbing. And you remember, we were talking about bodies that were discovered in River Yala. And you see, we have a police service, but citizens are losing life and cannot be accounted. It is a dirty thing. So I think from Ojwang, let Ojwang be the last Kenyan to suffer the brutality of the police. No Kenyan, again, for whatever reasons, should lose life and should suffer because of police brutality. And we must get down to turn around and reform the police force effectively.
That has been done several times, Mwalimu. That has been
not done, said.
But you don't give up. It must be done. It is a must-do thing. And if it is a must-do thing, we do it now, and very deliberately, so that then we redeem the country. You know, what is our image globally? When you arrest a suspect, not on a criminal offense, not on a capital offense, but a simple civil matter, that you can even summon a person to appear in person.
Yes, Wakili, guide us here. You can also bring your point on that.
Yeah,
but the question, yes.
There have been serious structural and organizational reforms within the police force. And I accept that we see that even in the stations. But our system is such a way that there's some elements, for example, of the political class, and by the extension, the cronies in the other sectors, who are untouchable, who are above the law. And that's actually the problem we have. They don't seem to follow the law. They operate like us and the law. And there's nothing which can be done to them. And I think that's the main challenge. For ordinary citizens, you and me and anybody else, you have an issue with the police, they investigate properly, they take you to court, and the matter ends there. Then you are judged by the court. But when it comes to the political class impunity, which I have mentioned, they don't operate alone. They have their tentacles in the other arms of organs of the state. And I think that's even one of the issues you had when they were recruiting the IBC, that people are bringing their cronies so that they can do their biddings. That mind shift is very difficult to erase, but it has to start from the top. The tone has to come from the top for there to be sanity in institutions.
Yes.
Because that's what spoils everything. Yeah. Right now, people are expecting a big head in the police department to have been fired, but nothing has happened.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, a big head in the police service, so to speak.
Yes.
The person who is being here, who is mentioned and who is the complainant, which was also put out there,
yes.
but the police IG is Deputy Inspector General, that is Eliud Lagat, made a complaint against the teacher come blogger.
Yes.
Okay? So basically that is what's there.
You should step aside.
But the question is this misuse of police powers?
Absolutely.
Just because Wanjiku does not have power to protect himself or herself.
Yes.
To what extent does the police have to use these powers? All right?
I think I'm saying if you operate outside the law, that's impunity. You know that statement you see, you can complain here or do whatever you want, but as we are not shielded by the law, and that's actually the problem. The law is there, the framework is good, that's what I'm saying, but the enforcement bit when it comes to some elements of the political class and their extension, their surrogates.
What is out there is, the word is that when the police officers went to pick him up, they said that alitusi mkubwa wetu.
Which is normal.
So the word is mkubwa, was insulted, or there was some false
complaint,
whatever it is.
Yes.
But, Prof, I'll come back to that question. So, the misuse of police powers, and Wanjiku becoming selfless or helpless, in as far as to defend himself, you can imagine the kind of animosity between the two parties.
You know, Victor, one of the greatest philosophers called Socrates says that the might is right. And that simply means that before we have the right person in State House, nobody has a right. And it's like that. So I've told you the person who has been violated is one man in State House. Because you see, since Ruto became president, tell me how many people have been forced out of office because they made a decision trying to protect something. Look at the police IG. How many have changed? Look at people who have left different positions just because it's become untenable. So I've told you, I'm happy when my brother here says that the buck stops with the police. Let me tell you the following. These policemen are our neighbors. They are our friends. We meet them. Some of them are our relatives. And they tell you what's happening. So it's not something we don't know. They'll tell you, even they've arrested me, I've slept in Central 8 times. And they tell you, Professor, tunajua umekuja hapa lakini hauna shida. So you just stay here until our bosses tell us to release you. And no, there's no charge sheet. I've never been charged. 8 times I've been in Central. Central is a walking distance from here. I don't know, after this I'll be there also. So what I'm trying to say here is that, let me tell you why this is not changing. Go to the budget. Mbadi argues that he has increased the security budget by 18%. The budget now is around 257 billion shillings on security. That budget is not fully disclosed. So there's what they call budgeted abductions, because there's no way this year can leave Nairobi, go to Homa Bay on air. And let me tell you what, have you ever been in trouble and you call the police and tell them, I've been invaded, then they tell you, send us fuel. If fuel just in Kawangware cannot be available from Kawangware police station, how did they get the fuel from Nairobi to Homa Bay and back? So there must be somebody up there who has access to huge resources. A normal policeman have no powers to order a car to Homa Bay, having power to command a political hierarchy of command in police, isn't it? Yes. OCPD cannot command direct. They can command OCS, but the inspector command directly an OCS. Hierarchy is done forces. They say this revive the soul of this. This issue is in the soul of this country. newspaper talking about it's not just this is a dark nation. Yes. The nation, the country has gone dark. And I don't like when some political perspective trying to defend a position. Which positions can you defend his life? And I can tell you, put your money where your mouth is. When you this government is going into an election, I've told you that anybody who has a social media following over 70,000, if you know you are at risk because you have been earmarked. People who have been put together, this is the information I'm giving you. I don't care what they do to me after this, but I'm trying to tell you, there is a list of people who we have followership of 70,000 and above in any social. Whatever you say is being monitored. In fact, once you hit that social media handle, like now, Ojuang's Twitter handle has disappeared. Facebook has gone. All the social media for Ojuang and even Kevin is gone. Who is taking? They belong to. These people have violated every to your own social media.
Okay.
So if you go around and so what I'm trying to tell my brother here is that the problem and the issue even goes to the budget, and it goes very clearly that we need now. We have to ask the state first. Sort education, sort healthcare, sort national security, sort rule of law. If you the case was passed, take oath of office and they can't be gazetted, then they are gazetted, these people. Again. So what do? We have an unstoppable regime that cannot listen to of a nation. So this institutional failure is the reason. The institutions were working, and Parliament, if they are serious, let them and even impeach the person who has given this instruction.
I'll come back to that. So Sion, does it now, the case of Ojuang, at least must test as a teacher, right? Is my chemistry? And there's a litmus
test. Yes.
So you is a teacher here.
You can lose. The teacher is here. Yes.
Litmus test for what has been happening between the amount that this one finally is out in broad daylight, and the world and the nation has.
You know, Victor, trying to collect every other thing that individually some of us might be disenchanted about, like political feelings. I don't think it's right when we are dealing with a matter of this magnitude. And this one indicates the credibility of the entire police service. It has not happened in secrecy. And police killings has not been happening undercover in the country. It is open, it is known. We've seen the killings all over the country over time. And that brings a lot of questions, because responsibilities is both ways. Even in circumstances where police are compelled to shoot, to kill, what really happens in those particular situations? Those are things, those are questions that must come to fore, because all of us as citizens, we have a responsibility in promoting law and order. But for this one of Ojuang is a special one, because it is evidence that he was tortured to death by legitimate police officers who were handling him. And these police officers are properly trained, and they know they're not supposed to use any lethal force against such a convict, which to me, that is an outright crime by an individual. And before we discuss even reforms and remedying other issues, we deal with the criminal within the police service who engaged in that particular crime and punish that individual as a criminal, and we deal with it as such, exclusively.
All right.
We don't need to import our other feelings of how the economy is performing and whatnot. That is that is engaging in a mischievous fishing expedition.
I want to
that is going to mar an administrative action that is urgent and that which is necessary. The country will rest.
Thank you.
And let me say, the country will rest, and all of us will rest when whoever caused the death of this particular young man is brought to justice.
Thank you. I want us to leave that matter to that, and just hope that due process is going to be followed, and clearly the people who are involved will be arrested. Gentlemen, I have a few minutes to go, but let's talk about what's happening tomorrow. The new budget is being read tomorrow. A quick one. There are losers and gainers from what we've seen. The education sector is going to lose. Wakili, I want us to do this within 2 minutes.
That correction.
Sorry?
It's good to make that correction so that it is not canvassed wrongly.
Thank you. All right. Guide us.
The debate in allocation has been varying. And of course the issue about financing of national examinations and environment of free education money to finance them. That was reallocation within the provision of the envelope that was given to the Education Committee, which they did it. It's a provision, it's a process. But I think that clarification has been made by John Badi, the CS, that no vote head is going to be affected in the education sector. The capitation is not going to be affected, and if anything, there are additional resources to the Teacher Service Commission to hire an additional 24,000 teachers. That will bring the number to 100,000 that has been hired by this administration within a period of 2 years. Which, of course, no government in the world
you're privy to this.
Can hire. Yes, I'm privy.
You're privy to this.
I'm privy to this. And then very lastly, in the education sector, there will be additional 6 billion shillings from 35 to 41 billion to higher education loans board. And remember, when this administration took over, the allocation to help was 13 billion. But it has gone up, leaped to 35 billion. And in this financial year, it will leap to 41 billion. Those are facts. So education, contrary to what is being alluded by those who are not properly informed,
there is no loss.
Is no loss. If anything, there are additional resources.
Allow me to bring Wakili in on this one. Wakili, tomorrow is a big day.
Yes.
1 year down the line, we all know what happened last year.
Yes.
And what are you trying to foresee?
Right now, people have been subdued to not express their rights. I think it's a bit unfortunate. The Gen Z killings and the rest which happened last year. We may not see a lot of widespread demonstrations on that. But I think the real failure here is the parliament, because the budgets bill proposals, they're supposed to be discussed and evaluated objectively in parliament. Now, they will be rendered, sure enough they will be passed. So what's the role of parliament? That's what has failed, because they're supposed to explain and separate in detail those proposals. But we have seen a situation where they just pass them en masse. They don't look at them. They can even reallocate, and that's actually the challenge. The parliament has failed the people of Kenya, because it's the oversight function. Once they pass it, then it will become law. Last year, they were told not to pass it because there are a lot of issues which were affecting Kenyans. They still went ahead and passed until the last minute the president rejected it. So why is Parliament rubber stamping everything which is brought to the House? What's their function? What's their function? And I think that's the tragedy with the whole thing. In terms of reallocation, I think Parliament's input would be very important, because for many parents now, and disagree with Sosion here, that capitation has not been reduced. Even now, some schools, I know some schools in my village, they are given per student 100 shillings. So before they used to get almost 9,000. So what is that? You saw a school in Normanby getting 97 shillings. So it has not been changed. what has changed on top, but on the ground they have changed.
Change in the next budget.
Yes.
Prof is an economist, and Prof.
Yes.
Are you able to do this within 1.5 minutes?
Yeah.
Summarize for us.
First of all, there's an African saying which says that until the lion knows how to write, every story will be told from the perspective of the hunter. What that means is that when you hear these winners and losers, that's not the story. Because if you hear agriculture is losing, is going to education, that's not the way you should look at it. Economically, you should look at what's called household expenditure or household taxes versus businesses and the state.
Yeah.
Because when you see that you overtax household, or if you don't give household a relief, it affects businesses. When you tax businesses, it affects household incomes. So there's a correlation between there. So what we are seeing here is that the expenditure on recurrent expenditure is 3.11 trillion. Development has gone to 640 billion. Last year, at around 700 and something billion, meaning...
Things have dropped.
Yes, so we are having a broad-based government. We have two heads of state.
We
have two deputy presidents. I'm just giving you this analogical.
Two heads of... No, we only have one head.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that there's a broad-based government because there's ODM government and there's UDA government and they're a broad-based government, many advisors, so the state is consuming a lot in terms of recurrent expenditure and reducing on development. Because look here, when you tax household to the point they have no disposable income, they have no money to buy business products. And if you tax business very high, they increase the taxes onto the finished goods, so then the household have no money to spend. So for me, the winners and losers here is that the households and businesses are the losers, and the state are the gainers because they have all money to themselves and taken money from
What is the projection, the next financial year?
In terms of growth?
Yes.
They are talking about 5.2%.
Thank you.
And the problem is the budget has grown by 18%, meaning the cost of running Kenya has grown by 18%, but the revenue is 4.5%, meaning that we are running this country in negative return on investment.
What is the projection next financial year?
I can't project, but of course, you know, our expenditure keeps going up, and there has been a strategic intervention so that not in the near future, we should be able to raise from our domestic taxes at least 5 trillion, so that then we can finance our budget fully, and therefore the expenditure in terms of budget will keep growing as our GDP grows. Our GDP is growing. We are an active economy. And so the revenue collection will also grow, and 4.2 trillion is the highest budget ever spent by this country.
Thank you.
And I'm sure next year it will not remain at 4.2. It will keep going up. There are a lot of activities of investment in the State Department, and they're mandatory. It will be done.
It will be lower.
We need to take charges.
It will be lower.
Focus on your work.
No, I have this. It will be lower than this year.
Yeah.
The all indicators are we are on a downward trend, and there are no measures which have been, in my view, have been proposed to revamp the economy to make it robust, to start growing. There is no indication at all, even from the budget. Yeah, there's nothing. They're just borrowing more.
Allow me to handle this.
Some optimism must be painted.
We'll do this next week because we need to do post-budget analysis, the losers, the gainers, the projections, even moving forward. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the show. Wilson Sossion, former NAT Secretary and nominated Member of Parliament, is also a friend of Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for coming. Elijah Njagi Ireri, who is an advocate, is a lawyer also, and governance expert, and Professor Fred Ogola, who is an economist and a convener, J25 movement. Gentlemen, asante sana for coming to the show. And you, as a viewer, thank you for your valid company. My name is Victor Lugut.